In this video, we will show you how to replace your oil cooler lines on this Cadillac Escalade with a 5.3 liter engine. This part is attached from your radiator all the way to your oil filter housing. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. We're going to have to gain access along the passenger side of the radiator, so we're going to start dislodging this plastic air inlet. Let's start by loosening our clamp between the air inlet and the air filter housing. You can use a flat blade screwdriver or an 8mm. Now once you have some movement here, we're going to pause in this area and let's start dislodging this. To be able to get this off of here, there's going to be another clamp that we're going to have to loosen. Before we can do that, we actually have to remove this plastic apparatus making its way across the top of the intake. Just take hold of this, we should be able to lift it up. There we are. Slide that out of place. Right down in here is where our clamp is located. Should be able to give this a wiggle now, separate it from the throttle body. Still a little tight. There we are. We're getting some movement now. Let's put a collection receptacle under this area. Now we can start removing our oil cooler lines. We can see one of them right up along the top area of the radiator here. The next one's going to be located just underneath it at the bottom passenger side of the radiator. The process for one's the exact same thing as the other. To start dislodging this, I'm going to use a small prying device and we're going to pull this plastic clip out and away. Now with that out of the way, that exposes a metal clip that makes its way around this portion of the radiator holding the line in place. We're going to start removing that clip, but make sure you don't lose it. We will be reusing it assuming it's not rusted, rotted, or damaged in any way. If that's the case, you will need to replace it. For this, I'm just using an angled pick, and I'm trying to grab onto one of the ears. I'll show you what this looks like once I start getting it out of here. Just gonna make sure I don't lose it. I get a magnet. Okay. Now there's our clip right there. A quick inspection and we'll set that aside. Now we should be able to take hold of this line. We're going to give it a wiggle and pull it out and away. There we are. Now we're making our way down the passenger side of the radiator here. We can see our next oil cooler line leading into the bottom of the radiator. As I mentioned before, same process. Just go ahead and remove that plastic cap and then we're going to remove the clip and pull the line out of place. There's our clip again. That one looks good as well. Let's pull this line out of place as well. Now we've got both lines separated from the radiator. We're going to follow the lines as they make their way across the cooling fan assembly. We have to dislodge this. Down along the bottom area of it's where your locking tab is going to be. For this, to dislodge it, you can use a small prying device. I'm just using an angled pick. I'm just going to get underneath the locking tab at the bottom there. Should be able to pop that apart. Take hold of those lines, pull them out and away. Okay, now continuing on from here, we're going to have to make our way safely under the vehicle. Under the front center of the vehicle, we're going to start removing our splash shield from underneath the engine. Now for this shield, you're going to find that it has several 15mm headed mounting bolts to remove. There's 2 along the front, 2 towards the center, and then 2 along the rear. Let's start removing all of these so we can remove this shield. Now we are not doing anything with our 10mm headed mounting bolts. Those can stay. Let's continue on towards the rear. For these, I'm making sure I'm holding onto the shield so it does not fall down and potentially hurt me. Carefully remove your shield. We'll set that aside. Now with that shield out of the way, it exposes our oil cooler lines. You'll find that we will have to follow these rearward up and over our front differential to where the oil filter housing is. We're going to have to actually lower down the front differential enough that we'll be able to slide this out of place, so let's focus on that now. Now that we've applied upward pressure underneath the differential, we're going to continue on with the driver's side mounting hardware. For this, we're going to be using an 18mm. We can loosen both of these mounting bolts, a quick inspection, and we're going to start each of them in just a couple threads. We'll be using an 18mm along the driver's side here. Now let's get the next one right back here. Going to start that back in a couple threads just like the other one. Let's start lowering this down as far as it's going to be able to go here. Slow and steady wins the race. There we go. Now at this point, this cannot come down any further. Let's continue on with removing the oil cooler. Now let's start looking for the engine oil filter. As you make your way directly above it, you're going to find where those cooler lines lead to the filter housing. There's two 10mm mounting bolts holding this in place. We're going to start removing each of these. Keep in mind, there will be oil in this area. Have your collection receptacle under here so you can recycle that fluid properly. Now these can be a little bit difficult to gain access to. I'm just using a 1/4 inch 10mm here. We're just going to want to try turning this counterclockwise till we remove it. Okay, there's one piece of hardware. Now let's get that next one as we move towards the rear here. After this, it's more than likely going to want to separate. Okay, we got some oil coming out of this now. I'm just going to let this finish draining and then we'll continue on. Let's get this last bolt out of here. More oil is going to come out and then we're going to start preparing to pull this line out of here. Now that oil slowed down on draining, we can finish getting this out of here. There's that. Should be able to separate this now. Let's just let that finish running out into our collection receptacle. Now the lines can move around fairly freely, but there's one more mounting point that we have to gain access to. This is located just underneath your water pump pulley. For this, we're going to remove our 10mm headed mounting bolts and remove this bracket with the line. There's that. Slide the lines off of there now. Be careful for our wiring harness. We don't want to cause any damage to that, of course. Let's try to pull that out of the way. Now we can start removing our engine oil cooler lines. Now this is essentially going to be the hardest part of the whole job, and that's flexing the lines enough that we can pull the upper portion, which should be attached to the radiator, down and out into this position out here. After that, once we have both of those lines in this position, we should be able to carefully twist this and slide it completely out of the vehicle. Let's start with the lower line first. This coolant hose should be attached up here. That really doesn't make much of a difference. It's just separated, so. Let's get this next one out of here. Once again, we're just trying to flex it. That Oh, it should be up there. Now that we have the lines down in this area, we're going to have to start pulling the lines out and away from up above that front differential. Now this is a semi-tight area, so you might find that you have to twist the lines as you continually pull them forward, removing the entire apparatus from the vehicle. Before we start our installation, let's continue on to cleaning up the mounting surface where our brand new lines are going to go. We're going to start down at where the engine oil filter housing is. Commonly, you're going to find the original gasket may be stuck in place. If that's the case, we'll just pry that out of place using a small pocket screwdriver if necessary. Our new lines should come with a brand new gasket, so of course we are going to use the new gasket and never the original. Just a quick inspection of that and we'll set it aside for disposal. Now I'm just going to use a rag. We'll give this a quick wipe, confirm there's no miscellaneous debris. We are not going to use any detergents inside this area. Obviously, we don't want that making its way into the oil system. Just double check, make sure there isn't any miscellaneous debris. This one looks fine. Let's continue on with our installation. Okay, friend, let's prepare to install our brand new oil cooler lines. The first area that we're going to pay attention to is the area that's going to go to that oil filter housing area. You're going to find that your new line came with a brand new gasket and it also had a plastic insert holding it in place. Go ahead and remove that and apply some electrical tape or something that'll at least cover the port for the oil. We want to make sure nothing makes its way in as we continue on. There we are. Now, before we go any further in this area, since we're sure we already have that pressed in as far as it's going to go, we're going to continue on with bringing the lines up towards the passenger side of our radiator. Now, when we go to bring these into position, we're going to start with the longer of the two lines, the one that goes up to the top portion of the radiator. Go ahead and gently flex this and we'll bring it up into position. We have that one up there. Let's continue on to the next line. We're back over by the oil filter here. It's time to start reattaching the line in this area. I'm going to remove my protective tape, making its way around here. Obviously, we'll dispose of that properly. There we are. Now it's time for the gasket. If you were looking at the gasket, you're going to find that the ports aren't perfectly symmetrical. We want to make it so we have the area with the larger gap in between the ports facing towards the front. Let's get this into place and we'll start in each of our two brand new mounting bolts. After those are started in, bottom them out and we'll torque those to 106 inch-pounds. For this, I'm just going to take one of my bolts and I'll slide it right on through that line. You can do both if you want. Let's get the gasket on there. Should slide in there. Get my next bolt on there. Just a little bit easier this way. It holds the gasket for me. Now at this point, I can see that I have my gasket in the proper placement. My ports are properly aligned, so we're not going to have an issue with oil pressure. This is important to confirm. Continuing on, let's get this line in place. You may have to twist the line. We want to make sure it's as level as possible. There we are. Now, sometimes twisting these lines can be easier. If you have a second person up along the front, it's a little easier to twist the lines from that area. Now that they're bottomed out, I'm just going to torque those 106 inch-pounds, as I mentioned. that one. This next one's a little bit more difficult to gain access to. Nice and tight. Before we leave this area, let's just make sure we clean up any residual oil that we've left here. I'm going to use some parts cleaner and a rag. Want to make sure you do this so you can confirm you have no leaks by the time we're done with this job. Now we're back at our center point. Let's get this bracket in place just underneath the water pump. We'll flex the lines. Slide that over that. Now we can get our 10mm mounting nut on there. Now that it's started on, let's go ahead and snug it up. Okay, right there's bottomed out. Let's take this a tiny bit further. Double check, make sure your bracket's properly secured. You do not want your lines moving around and potentially getting damaged. Raise your differential carrier here. Carefully press that up against the frame, the mounting points there. Let's tighten our 18mm headed mounting nuts. Once they're both tight, torque those to 74 foot-pounds. Get our torque wrench now. Remove your jack. Typically along the passenger side front of the frame, you're going to find that you have some oil residue due to removing the lines from up top. We're just going to go ahead and clean up this area as much as possible here. I'm going to use some parts cleaner and a rag. Let's install our protective shield under this area. Get that up in position. We're going to start in each of our mounting bolts. Once all of them are started in, you can snug them up. All right, they're all started in. One last inspection underneath the vehicle and we can make our way back up under the hood. Before we start getting this in position, let's pay attention to the mounting port. Make sure it's clean and free of any debris, first of all. Secondly, we want to reinstall our metal clip. When we install the metal clip, you're going to find that the adapter here actually has small slots for it to slide into. Once it feels as though it's pressed all the way in, we can continue on with the line. There we are. Slid into place. Now we can start getting that lower line in place. There's a couple things that we'll be paying attention to for this. As we start bringing that into the port on the radiator, we're also going to pay attention to the center point on our cooling fan assembly. Okay, that's aligned. Before I continue pressing it in, I'm just going to make my way over here. We'll press that into that lower aspect of the mounting point. It's more than likely just going to pop out of there, but it's good to have it as close to aligned as possible as we continue on. Now we're going to press this in until we hear a click from that locking ring, and then we're going to attempt to pull this out. We need to make sure it's secured. Okay, here we go. Give that a little tug. As you can tell, that's perfectly secured. And we're still in our bracket, which is a bonus. Once you're sure you do have it secured, it's time for that plastic cap That's going to ensure that the locking clip does not come dislodged while you're driving down the road. It needs to be in proper placement. Press it on there as far as possible. A light wiggle confirming it's not going to fall off. It should be able to move around, but it should not slide off. Now it's time for the upper line. Of course, once we do start getting that in position, we're going to pay attention at the radiator and also at that lower mounting point in the center here. Quick inspection, we'll install our metal clip. Get that into the bracket down along the bottom. Let's try to get this aligned here. We're just going to flex it as necessary. Audible click. Attempt to remove it. That's locked in. Let's get this in place as well. There we are. Back at the center mounting point on that fan shroud. Let's lock it in. Double check, make sure those are secured. You do not want these loose, rattling around where they could potentially get damaged. Now from the bracket, as we make our way towards the passenger side, we also have to make our way underneath these coolant hoses over towards that air filter housing. Let's start getting everything in position here. Just paying attention along where that bracket needs to be. Should slide right into its groove as well, right there. Now let's start at the center here. We're pressing that as far up against the throttle body as possible. You do not want any air leaks, otherwise dirty air might get drawn into the engine, which could be catastrophic. Let's tighten that clamp. We're attempting to remove that from the throttle body. It should not slide out of place. Make your way over to the air filter housing. Double check, make sure that the inlet is pressed all the way up against the housing. Tighten your clamp. Bottomed out, just a tiny bit further there. Let's make our way along the back side here. Slide that on, listen for a click, attempt to remove it. It should not slide out of place. Now we've got our upper engine cover looking all the way along the back side there. We're going to go ahead and slide those tabs from the cover into the back of the intake. Now we'll start resting this down into position. We're looking for our studs along the top of the intake here. Once you feel as though you do have it in the proper position, continue on by pressing it down. A light tug confirming that's properly secured in place. The next thing that you want to do is go ahead and start up the engine, let it run for a short while, make sure you have no leaks and turn it right back off. Now after running the engine on a flat level surface, let's go ahead and remove our engine oil dipstick located along the driver's side of the engine. Just go ahead and give that a quick wipe, show you what we're looking for. Now we can have a close look at the very end of this. We can see the tip of the dipstick, and up in this area where my thumb is, you can see those small hatched lines. This is where the engine oil level should be at. Anywhere close to this, up along the top is where we want to be. If you're at the very bottom of it or lower, you need to add some oil. You would want to add your engine oil right through here. After you've done all that, you want to make sure you triple check for leaks, confirming everything's sealed as it should be, close the hood, and take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.